Hello, hello, hello. We are back. It's Wednesday and it is, well, it's 2 minutes past 2 p.m. Central European time. So that's about 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central. A lot later if you're in Australia. The day is slowly coming to an end. Time flies, and I'm happy to be here. And I am really looking forward to hanging out with you guys today. Still on the old-fashioned stream. I am getting forward with setting up the computer. I did some pre-testing already, but I do need to get a lot of other things transferred over to be able to actually run the good old-fashioned streaming backend. And there's a few other things, technical things, where I probably may need a bit of technical help from my better half. He is definitely a lot more tech savvy than I am. So we are kind of getting there. We're definitely getting there. Um, yeah, good afternoon, Hella. Great to see you. Great to see you. Da, da, da. So I have a few projects going on, of course. I did recently start a new one, which I started last night. I also have my tea with me. As said, grab something to drink, sit down, bring your current work in progresses if you have any, and come and hang out. So my tea here, I optioned for Pickwick's Winter Glow today. The Winter Glow is an orange tea with some cinnamon taste, and it's just fits good because today here outside it's really grey. It's not raining; it's just grey and sad. Um, so we do have the WaffleChic Shrug that I am still working on. Hello, good morning, Revenant. Wonderful to see you at this early hour. And I will say, I said yesterday, not yesterday, Monday, I'm going to take up the next game for the WaffleChic Shrug. Guess what? I had no time to do so. I actually didn't even work on it yesterday because I had to catch up on work. I was so behind, and then afterwards in the evening, I also had a few things to get done. So I ended up not doing much crafting yesterday, to be honest. But as I said, I have been working on getting my new laptop up and running. We are slowly getting there. There's a few things I'd like to see if can be done differently. One of them is I'll need to look into the getting the Microsoft up and running, the Office, because I really don't want to pay a monthly subscription to Office for that. So I don't have a new skein, but we have this one to work on today. I could technically grab a new skein, but I'd rather not unless it's caked up. So if we finish this, we can continue on my other project that I started on. But this is basically where we left off. Or maybe I did one row after. Maybe I did reach to do one row yesterday. I'm not sure. But this is, of course, the Waffle Trick Shrug. So we do have a bit of work still to get done here. And then I started on a new knit beanie. Um, and I got some recommendations on the cowl. Not really sure still how to fix it, but I started on the knit beanie. It is just two solid colors. They are heathered in look from these ice yarns, Millens, and so I'm just gonna knit up the first one, and I'll see how much yarn I have left. I may use the leftover for that to test out alternatives for that cowl, or optionally, indeed, I'll pop up. I'll end up frock it and do two more, or a couple of more rows of, and then I'll maybe upsize the needles, do a ribbing, and then change into straight on um, knit, like stockinette. Um, Still in kind of in my thought pattern. I don't think, while I do like how the purling is looking, the knit purl, and then the alternating purl knit, and then etc. While I do like the look of it, it's honestly a pain in the rear to knit. So I'm not really sure how I'll do that. But anyhow, I have a new project for on the couch or whenever I am missing an easy project to go on. So we have that. And as I said, I am looking into, oh my goodness, this is tangled in over here, which I'm not really surprised about, to be honest. Because of course I make a tangled mess. Whew. We still have the cowl that we're technically working on. That is going to be on this side. And the thing is, right now it kind of curls a bit on both sides. A part of it is said that it should be fixed by maybe blocking it, but it's really inclining to curl at the bottom. So I think that piece needs to be made longer somehow. And I'll do that on both ends, and we'll have the centerpiece. And I'm not disagreeing on the look here, definitely not. I also look when I look at the stitching, I definitely don't think the needles need to be bigger or smaller. I think the stitching is nice. Um, but yeah, the curling, it's not really working ideal to me. So the suggestion was to try out a few things and basically sort of swatch it to see how it would act before I would frog that. So maybe that's what I'm gonna do. Not decided. That's kind of what I'm laying on that project because I'd be kind of sad to having to frog it, but at the same time, I'm super annoyed with this curling tendency. And it could be that the only main solution might be basically to rib it or as a rib knit. But a few suggestions was definitely sent to me by my mom. Um, the advisement is to if I'll do a rib knit that it should be 2 to 5 centimeters. Unsure how that's much is in inches, somewhere between an inch and a half, maybe. Um, or I could do them one row knit, one row purl, one row knit, one row purl. That could also be an option to help prevent the curling. Um, that could definitely also be an option. Again, we are back into this alternating rip knit, as I did, but 3 rows just isn't enough to prevent the curling of the thing. An I-cord edge could also be an option. I've never done an I-cord before, so that will be a learning in progress. So I could make an I-cord bottom and an I-cord top to solve it. Blocking it, uh, it's inconvenient. If you wash it, you would need to reblock it basically. Um, or crochet a border with slip stitches on the other side. But I'm not really sure. So basically, as bottom line, they always want to curl. So how would I want to get around with it? Um, well, I'll need to think. Good morning, Megan. Good morning. Wonderful to see you. As I just said to the others, I did start a new rib knit beanie on this heathered lovely green. So that is what we do have to work with if I run out of yarn, because I did not manage to cake up new cake. That's what we have left. So that's what we got to work with today. And else we'll just have to knit, I guess. Because yeah, life was a busy. So I hope you've all had a great couple of days and that you have gotten well up this Wednesday morning or Wednesday afternoon, depending on where you are. I am going to pop you guys down so you can follow a little bit of what I'm doing, or at least try to, if it wants to, like this. And let's see, we just got to the end here, so it's time to turn our work actually. And don't forget to bring your coffee or your tea, whichever calls your name. And then we will see how far we'll get on this one today. But we still have a fair amount of work to go before it's time to sew. That is one thing that is for sure. So what I should do basically is, oh, I think we tested last time, and if I've done maybe one row, it's not going to be much of a difference. But we'll can have a look at the end of this row and see how it's looking. But a general feeling would be that I should probably even measure. Um, but yeah, as I said, I'll still need lots. For this one, it goes nicely around my underarm, but definitely not my upper arm because I do have some arm there. The chicken wings, granny arms, whatever we should call them. Um, they are definitely very much present. So, yeah. Da-da-dum. Revenant says I call mine bingo wings. Bingo wings, that's a new one. My granny arms are bingo wings or chicken wings or whatever we should call them. They definitely has told me that I have been a bit more inactive the last couple of years compared to what I used to be before. Um, and I should get back into do more stuffs. The thing is, I'm actually not. While the fitness center where I am at is okay, like I'm not displeased with it. They don't always have enough parking lots because at the same place they also have swimming, like they have a swimming a swimming pool for kids where they learn to swim, and it's very much mandatory, almost mandatory, but it's very advisable here in the Netherlands that your kids need to take swimming classes so they at least know the basics of swimming because we do have a lot of water. Um, so yeah, it's the parking lot is constantly full. Can barely park there. It's a way far to walk. In the winter, it's too cold to bike there. It's not really that nice. And I definitely won't go on a bike in the evening in the winter because it's just dark and kind of dangerous. Or more dangerous basically because um, I know I have lights on my bike. But when I drive in the evening, sometimes even if bikes have light on them, they don't always seem super visible, to be honest. So I'm not too keen to do that. Um, and you know, when there's the parking lot available, yeah, sorry, but I'd expect that should be enough for us. I think personally that they should restructure it also that would get one. Then And then sometimes there are these periods where I'm super busy and then it gets very expensive. Like if I look at the amount of times I were there in January, and I was actually home in January, but I just had a lot of things going on. February is not going to be better. March definitely also not. You know, the amount of money I pay per visit, I'll probably be more efficient getting some of the things done at home. I do have access to some of the things here at home. It's just a question of using them. Maybe I should just accept that fact and say, well, I don't have the time to go there. And when I do, sometimes I've really spent all the time to get ready and get there, and I end up driving back because I can't dump my car there. There isn't a parking lot. Um, I'm like, it's just too much money for the amount of time I use it. Basically, it's just too expensive. If it would have been cheaper, I probably would still keep doing it, but I also don't see the progress I want to see from the efforts I make there. And then we are back to if it doesn't really feel that it makes a difference and it stresses me more than it benefits, um, I should probably just save the money because it's still like 60 euros a month for basically popping my head in. Homemade training by moving your yarn stash. Yes, that But I also do have foam weights, and I do have a training mat, and I do have a spinning bike. Like, I do have options to do it at home. Plus, I do have a wonderful staircase where I can do staircase walks, or even use that as a pre-training for push-ups. And I have lots of training programs from back when I was an elite athlete, which basically just requires your own body weight to train. So that is what I need to start doing again. And basically, it's so much easier to find 15, 20 minutes a day when you're at home instead of needing to find an hour, hour and a half plus, let's say, 15 minutes extra to get things sorted and get there and get back. So that, quickly takes somewhere between 1.5 to 2 hours to go to the fitness center, which I don't mind. But then I just shouldn't work. But if I don't work, I can't pay it. So it's kind of like, you know, you only have so much energy in the day. Um, so right now I'm just debating if it's too expensive. I could then by training, doing the weight training, by moving yarn stash, I could buy more yarn for the same amount of money. Like it would be a free yarn haul every month. It's basically a yarn haul that I'm spending on a fitness center, which I'm visiting not even on average twice a week these days. That's my point, right? It's expensive. Um, if it would cost me like, if I would just pay, let's say, per usage, 2 or 3 euros every time I checked in, fair. But that's not the case here. It's basically just expensive. And they increased their prices at New Year's, which didn't really help either. But genuinely, since October, like the first 2 months were easy, but that's also before, like in the beginning, we hadn't gotten back to, like we do have closings in the summer on the range. And it's definitely, um, yeah, how can I say that best? I just see there isn't just room to do both, to do everything. Or I need to cut somewhere, to craft less or go less live, or there's lots of options. But if it's not yielding results, then it's not worth what you give up for it. Um, and as I said to my partner, it's almost like if I look at what I'm paying per year, it's almost a cheap vacation for us somewhere where where we can get a hotel room for a week. Then we would only need to pay for travels, etc. Which is something I'd far more rather do than being annoyed over the fact that, okay, there wasn't a parking lot again this time, because when I happen to have time to go, it's apparently the same time where all the kids have their swimming lessons. Um, so yeah, um, I'm kind of getting there to that point where I'm like, I don't think it's worth it. Hello, Susan. Hello, welcome. Not yet decided what's gonna happen with the cowl yet. I was suggested to do some swatches of alternates. But another thing could be to just basically have to make it wider. Um, the starting edge. That could be an option too. Um, so yeah, I'm not really sure about it. It's kind of te- temporarily parked. My mom did suggest me to swatch test new ideas to prevent the curling, but so I could wait with frocking. But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, but if I find it, I'm gonna frock it anyways, which annoys me, of course, because I'd rather not. But I feel I dislike the curling so much that I do need to find a solution. It's okay. Take your time. Thank you. Thank you. Um, I was also supposed to have caked up a new cake, but I haven't. This is what's left over of cake 2 or skein 2. And then we'll just basically see how it goes. I can always start on the new rib knit beanie that I started on. That's definitely an option too. And of course, we do have the hat collector shawl, where that stuff is sort of in my stash upstairs. So there is a fair few things. Fair few things. Yeah. Meanwhile, we'll just crack on here in the waffle stitch. As I said, there is also a fair few rows still to go here. I am expecting to definitely use a lot of the third cake or skein. I need to cake it still, so it's not a cake yet, technically speaking. I do need to get that caked up. That is for tomorrow. In between. And I have to start learning a new program for work as well. Apparently, it should be able to handle a lot of my manual tasks. Awesome, 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 awesome. Hope. If that means that I would be slightly less stressed about work and my work can perform better, sure, that would be great. Um, da, da, da. Of course, bottom end of the goal is still for me to hopefully get a permanent contract towards the end of the year with my current employer. That would be sweet if that happened. But I should have some time this weekend to do other things too, so that would be great. For once, I'm home this weekend with very few plans. I do need to get to a store to get some stuff done, but further than that, I actually have the weekend off, which is pretty awesome. Pretty awesome. Let's see here. Which totally reminds me, I also need to send an email. So there's a few things I do need to get done today. Um, we got to the end of this row. Let's just make a little comparison. Ta-ta. We are definitely able to close up a bit more. We get about halfway up my underarm, but we need more than that. And of course, this is also a bit thicker because I only need to make sure it closes nicely around, and it's really bright because my t-shirt here, it's a bright one. I'm sorry about this lighting. That's really horrid for you guys. Let's see if we can fix that. Um, First we go lighter, as you know, and then we'll go a bit darker. That's a bit nicer. Still very bright, but I do have this bright shirt underneath, which is almost like skin colored. I really seem like I never have sun. but that's the intent to wear one of these under here or nothing. The likelihood I'm gonna wear some sort of a basic t-shirt underneath. So that is what it needs to be around. And here it's nice and loose. Um, but that's definitely not my upper arm. So we still have a fair bit of work to get done here. And that's basically where we are at. And that's why I'm saying I'm sure we need another, like, what would that be? Skein on it before we are kind of getting to that point. Of course, the downside now is that now, because I did this, it's gotten so dark you can barely see the yarn again. So it's not the best combination. But in the end, we are just here to chit chat and enjoy each other's company while we are crafting. So, what are you, ladies and gentlemen, working on today? I am just, continuing on the project we were already working on. So, no a big change here. Of course, as I said, if I run out of yarn on this one before the stream ends, we will likely shift to that beanie. I got it started, which makes me really happy, because that gives me something for what I call quote unquote social time on the couch when we're watching a movie or a series and whatnot. Oh, mhm, mhm. Right now it is simple, and I do have to say I do like the waffle stitch. I like the stitch definition of this yarn. I like how it pops up with the nice waffle clearing waffle definition, and it's this 3 easy stitch repeated on 2 different rows. Um, can definitely recommend. If I can recommend this pattern, I will let you know once I'm done with it, because obviously not completed yet, so difficult to actually recommend anything before you have completely finished the product. Roman says I'm still working on the rhythm of Resilient, not put much work onto it the last couple of days. Gotcha. Hella saying she's trying to continue knit on the sweater for Hannah. Hannah is the daughter of my cousin, and my mom just had her second cataract surgery yesterday. Um, so for her, she's kind of getting used to seeing the world in a new way, so to say, because she can see a lot better than she has been able to. Though she is temporary on reading glasses for now. And in a couple of weeks, she is allowed to go to the optician and get like real reading glasses made. Now it's just, the quote unquote cheap ones from the supermarket. So the attempt of getting something made is a good start, I would say. So the only thing I'm personally doubting on is, yeah, I could make a swatch with the other. Mm. But I do feel it was wanting to curl when um it definitely wanted to curl um when I was just doing the rip, first rows of rip and then afterwards knit. So I do wonder if I indeed should maybe just make a rip knit for the first couple of rows and then, you know, until X centimeters long, and then follow the pattern afterwards, if that would fix some of it. Um, I don't know. Yeah, thinking, because it could also be that the knit purl-ish concept would, but then we are back at the recommendation is a couple of centimeters, and evidentially I didn't. Or optionally, you do one row of full purl, one or knit, and then one row full purl and one row full knit. That's kind of breaking that up too until you just do. That's also an idea. That could look decent. Um, that could look decent because that will break it up too as well. I think it would be about an inch. I'll find my measuring tape to get the idea of how much is an inch actually in centimeters. I should know. An inch is 2.5 centimeters approximately. That would probably work to kind of break it up. Maybe that would be enough. Yeah, the lottery question. The lottery question. Hmm. Yeah. Hmm. Do, 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 do. But yeah, I kind of feel the pressure right now to get some yarn consumed for February because I barely got anything done. And we are kind of almost halfway through. But that again happens when you're not around much. Um, so there is definitely an urge to get that done. But given the fact that I started a new beanie, there is definitely potential. Um, and I also need to start prep a bit for March. I'll be gone for a week in March again. Um, and there's a few other things I need to get ready for. Um, so I definitely need to coordinate some things here. And I am very much debating on saying yes, thank you to the offer I got from the company I work for, that they would offer me a stay in Amsterdam for the night. Um, and I think that could be a good idea because there's the networking aspect of it, and I wouldn't have to go back and forth early. Revenant is 5 skeins used and 0 bought in February. Well, I am technically at all the skeins I got for the yarn haul bought in February, even though technically it was in January. But since I first showed it in February, it for me the logic is that it goes into the February consumption for logistics of things. Um, right. And that means that right now I am in the negative with a 19 skeins. Um, because I added 19 skeins with that yarn haul and I've not used any yet. But we may have a chance today, or we may not, but we may get close. That is the second skein here, so that would be nice if that gets done. Oh, I need to make sure this doesn't tangle up too much. So that would be one. It's a 3.5 ounce skein where I'm working on right now. But I think I already added it to my project before February, though. But as I said, I'd had some days where I haven't been home. Um, it was interesting, to say the least. I had some interesting days in The Hague. It was a good experience. It went well overall. I made good business from my other side of the company. Um, but uh, but we are not really like it. It didn't allow me to craft. It's just how it is. Not even the car. I was just too tired. When we went there, it was too early in the morning. I couldn't see anything, so I should have had a neck lamp if I wanted to attempt to do it. Um, yeah. And then on the way back, I was just too tired. I fell asleep. I was the shittiest co-driver ever. Well, and my partner, I guess, knew it. Um, I just fell away and fell asleep. It was quite weird actually on the way home because on Sunday the sun was shining brightly in The Hague, and as we were driving further and further to the east of the country, passing Rotterdam, there was this sort of mist fog hanging, but it had a very like golden glow. Um, my partner actually said, "I wonder if something is burning somewhere. Like all this, see all the it's so foggy, it's so misty." but it almost looks like a smoke and it's golden. Was pretty weird. And we kind of drove into it, but honestly, it was misty all the way to home, which was another hour drive. Um, but I don't remember any of it because just around when we hit that wall of mist, I just fell asleep. So I was like sleeping in the car for an hour, and I just woke up just before we got to the exits, and my partner just came with the comment, "Yeah, you were tired," and I'm like, yeah, clearly." And I don't normally like I do sleep in cars, but I believe like I don't necessarily instantly sleep unless I trust the driver, if that makes sense. And I definitely do trust my partner. So in this case, I was just way too tired to remain awake. But on the good side, for not getting anything done, is that we have gotten to the point where I'm likely going to frog the project and do something else with it um, to sort of fix it, if that makes sense. Because yeah, I don't want it to curl. I'm realizing this is nice actually, but is this still? No, it's not. It looks sounds good though. Makes sense. There is more there, but only thing I have ever heard is heard the Hague in reference to is the International Court. So I had a good day in the Hague is a bit funny to me. Yeah, The Hague is actually a rather big city. The Hague is also where the Dutch government is sitting and ruling, so it's the ruling city. So while it's not the capital of the Netherlands, that's Amsterdam, it is the governing city. So you can compare The Hague a bit to Washington, actually, because you have the capital there and so on, or the White House. Um, so in that sense, that would be more likewise with The Hague. Also, the royal family, I do believe, live in The Hague or in The Hague area. Um, but there is definitely also the International Court. We used to stay at a hotel basically next door to the National Court, so that was pretty cool. Um, they have lots of interesting museums as well. Um, and they have a very nice beach if people are interested in beaches. Um, Said to be one of the nicer ones in the Netherlands. That does in the summer. It is really crowdy at the beach and very expensive also in that sense. That would be the beach of Scheveningen. Um, but I also think they have plenty of other nice beaches in the Netherlands. They have a pier. They also have a Ferris wheel at the pier, I believe, or not far from the pier. One of the piers you can bungee jump from. Um, Not that that was my plans at all. But yeah, overall, there's plenty of things to do in The Hague. That said, I am curious what's going to happen because a part of the sport hall that where we were at for the venue has been sold. That means that next year it might not be at the same location. I don't know. Mm. Don't forget to grab some tea. I wonder if I added extra sugar to this one. It feels a bit sweet. But it could also be because it was standing a little bit longer than I normally do with the tea sack in it while I was prepping to go live on this stream. Da-da-da-da-da. Um, of course, there's also the Olympics these days. Um, technically, I should go have a look at how our Danish biathlete are doing. We are obviously big fan of biathlon in the sense of while they do shoot and they do shoot with small bore rifles. I actually even know some of their main servicemen of some of the main brands there. Because da-da, this sounds really good. Why are we looking that? That's disappointing that they're showing other events. Hmm. So they're showing live from the Alpine, but that's just not what's currently valid. Like, it's not biathlon. What the fuck is that? Sorry for my French. The reason I'm disappointed is because the Danish biathlete, we actually have two, but one of them happens to be from Greenland. That's fine. I can't watch it anyways while we're streaming here, but I can definitely read, and she's doing quite well. And those two biathletes are very happy to compete for Denmark during these games because since Greenland is not considered an independent country by the Union, so the FN, I'm not sure what that's called in English, but due to this, they are competing under the Danish flag at the Olympics. So if they do World Cups, they will compete under Greenland. But Greenland doesn't have their own national Olympic committee, and therefore they cannot compete for Greenland. Um, that would be the short version of it. Susan said, "It's interesting." I was going to ask you about your interest in the Olympics. I am definitely a keen person when it comes to the Olympics to keep caught up, etc. I am even very much debating um, on what is it called? I really wondered if I just needed to suck it up and get myself a subscription for HBO Max because through that subscription you also have access to watch the Olympics. Um, plus, once the Olympics are done and dusted, I can catch up on a few series that I wanted to watch, but I was like, yeah, I'm waiting for them to be completed, and then I can get a monthly subscription. I'll bing it, and I'll like cut the subscription afterwards. And now I'm kind of heading back to this edge of maybe I should grab the subscription regardless because of the Winter Olympics, because it does allow you to watch things that I would like to watch, or in this case, rewatch maybe tomorrow because I do like the biathlon, definitely. Also, I know a lot of people. So yesterday, um, the French biathlete who on the 20-kilometer thing placed and won silver, Perrault. He's trained by an old rifle shooter by Jean-Pierre Amat. And Jean-Pierre Amat won the gold medal in three positions, so 3 by 40, at the Olympic Games in Atlanta back in 1996. So he's well known in the shooting world. Um, so that's pretty cool. And I can also see why three positions can be very relevant for biathlon because they shoot two of those three positions. My wife has been watching the figure skating. The Ilya, whatever dude, the American dude, he's awesome. Like doing freaking saltos. Like, wow. And I think they were prohibited until, was it last year or something like that? So he's just by far the best, and everybody expected him to win, and he did. So hey, when you're that superior, um, that's also okay, I think. Um, I know figure skating is rather big, both in the States as well as in Canada. Not as big here, but it is impressive to watch still. Like, I don't mind watching it. Da, 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 da. But so far, the Danish biathlete has been doing well, I think. Um, they are right now doing the 15 kilometers. 15 kilometers, and she has been quite well, I would say. Basically, it's about doing the quickest time on 15 kilometers. They have to shoot 4 times. They have to shoot 2 series of standing and 2 series of prone, where usually that will be standing prone, standing prone. Um, and if they miss one of the 5 targets in each series, they will get a time punishment. So they will get added time to whatever they're doing. If you ski too fast, basically, if uh, your breath and so on will be affecting your shooting too much because you have much more body movement. So biathlon is very much about knowing how much can you push yourself and still be able to hit the target. Um, and I do understand that Ukaleq, which is a Danish athlete from Greenland, has been doing really well in her shooting. So she's definitely doing really, really well. Um, so that's cool. And then we also have a Norwegian born who's also competing for Denmark. I think she's half Danish, half Norwegian, and she just had to choose. And for Denmark, it would be easier for her to qualify because we have fewer biathletes than they do in Norway. Um, and I'm just checking up here how it's looking, but generally she's doing well. She is likely not a gold candidate, but she's performing well for what's to be expected compared to her opponents, I think. Mhm. The latest updates say that the Greenlandic athlete did 19 of 20. She hit the targets. That's pretty good actually, especially if you consider they have been doing like X amount of kilometers on skis before like getting there. Just saying. But she's there's not metal potential at all whatsoever. It's there. It's more like gonna be luck if they medal, but they have been doing good. I think especially 2 of the biathletes, it's a brother and a sister, they're siblings, who's from Greenland, has had extra much attention during these games. because they are from Greenland. So a lot of extra attention regarding to Trump and wanting Greenland and all that shizzle shazzle. So it's pretty cool that they are so proud that they are to compete for Denmark, and that's kind of their voice towards this whole argument of Trump and Greenland and not being for sale and stuff. Apparently, the US curling teams have been doing well. Yes, I saw that too. The only medal Denmark ever has from the Winter Olympics is actually from curling. That was won back in 1998 in Nagano. And I remember because I watched that final. They won a silver medal. I don't remember who they lost to, but I just remember they won a silver medal. Um, and around that time, of course, curling became super popular in Denmark because as soon as you have people medaling, um, it just pops up. The popularity increases. Um, we can also see that in other sports, right? I would say would go for the Netherlands. The Netherlands are extremely good at speed skating. Speed skating is definitely where they win most of their winter medals. Um, so yeah, there is that. Um, and I did watch the speed skating Monday evening. Um, and it was a great race to see. A lot of the mentality from speed skating, I think, can be applied to shooting. Even though I've always been quite convinced that running or any similar thing as running, it's just about raw power rather than necessarily the mental game. But speed skating, because of they go so quickly into the corners and kind of have to lay partially flat, still keep their balance on their feet. And if they are just too slow or too quick with moving their feet compared to the other feet, they will fall. They will slide out the corner, and they're going with like 52 to 55 kilometers an hour. Those corners in, it's deadly dangerous. And reality is just that it's as much as technique as it is mentality. How to keep calm and focus on your technique while you are under this immense pressure of having to perform. It's I can very much relate it to shooting actually. Um, because mistakes there as well is just as in shooting can be the difference between um, gold or nothing basically. Have to check on the hockey. Yeah, that's always a good one. Do you have hockey players too from Denmark, I believe, this time around? Because we did insanely well at the World Championships. Everybody was surprised when we beat Canada in the semifinals, I think it was. I'm unsure if they ended up winning the bronze medal, but still at the World Championships. But everybody were like, ice hockey? Sure, we can ice hockey. So I remember when it was Winter Olympics and I was still at school and it would be school vacation. It would be even more cool because like you could watch TV over day. There was sports on TV. Didn't have that much TV centers back then. It's many years ago. But I do remember, funny, the small things we remember from our youth. Mhm. Don't forget to hydrate, people. Don't forget to hydrate while we are cracking on this shrug. Eventually shrug. I went to the 1980 Lake Placid Olympics on a bus trip. Okay, that's cool. That's way before I was born. I just suddenly feel young, even though I can tell you yesterday I felt old. That's awesome. It's such an experience. There is something special about being present at Olympics. Um, there is definitely something special about it. I remember at the day after my competition, I took the subway um, to go with my partner to get to a different place in London, and just to spend some time with him. And you know, we were standing there in the subway, and I still had my accreditation with me. I needed that because else I wouldn't be able to go back into Olympic City. And there were just people like looking at me, and one of them were like, "Hey, hey, look, that's an Olympic athlete," and I was like insanely cool, to be honest. Um, um, Susan says, "I think we watched pairs skating and luge." Yeah, um, that's some really cool events. I'm definitely not going to do the skeleton. I don't want. I wouldn't have the guts. I'd rather do. Maybe that's called the luge. It's like a sled basically, which you race very quickly down the range. You have the bobsled, and you have, I do believe it's the luge and the skeleton. And skeleton is head first, and I no head first. My goodness. Good morning, Lisa. Great to have you with us, even though it is not long because you are soon going to Barcelona, which had the Olympics back in 1992. Fun facts. More fun Olympian facts. Should we do some fun facts about the, let's see. Um I am going to see if I can find my info sheet for the London Olympics. So the thing is, a lot of athletes. So not everybody can get their goals fulfilled at Olympics. It's impossible to get everybody to fulfill their goals. And part of the reason is obviously there is only one gold medal in each event, only one silver, only one bronze, but there are far more competitors. A lot of the athletes will get home from the Olympics disappointed, or they will get home um, with this feeling of not having accomplished what they set out to do. But there's also a lot of athletes that comes home with an emptiness inside. That is what's referred to as Olympic blues. That is nicely translated, actually, a sort of depression. Um, so this sort of depression, it destroys people because they feel lost, they feel empty inside. They're not sure what their next steps are. Um, because yeah, what's next? I made it. I trained so many years to get here, to stand here. For some people, they win medals and they still end up in the Olympic blues, and some people don't, and they end up in the Olympic blues. Um, it's it's because it takes so much time out of your life, basically, to achieve what you wanted to achieve. And a lot of people ask themselves when they get back, what's next? Um, and for me, I guess I wasn't sure because I went through a lot of hardship getting there. And I did have my moments where I was worrying and wondering if it was worth my time, what I did, right? But standing on the podium, I like standing watching the podium ceremony, and they were stepping up on the podium and how beautiful it was. Um, I guess I knew that was why I was doing it, but I'm not sure if it was enough with what I went through. Yeah, skeleton is insane. Rowan says, "Want to whip down an ice chute head first, fast enough that will get you speeding ticket on most roads?" No, thank you. Like, that's insane what they do. That I'll just nicely skip. I will definitely leave others to do the skeleton. Uh, that's the most crazy sport there's probably is. Well, and of course, ski jump or like uh what is it called? The type of alpine skiing that Lindsay Vonn does, though she had an accident. She's very clear that it was not due to the injury she got a couple of weeks earlier, that she had the accident. It was just un- being unlucky taking the gate. But still, I don't think she will get back on her skis because she will need multiple surgeries um, for that one to recover from that. Skiing moguls is crazy. Yeah, there's definitely some crazy things. But what I'm saying is the athletes who does end up getting home with the Olympic blues, and I have been there too. Um, they need to put things in a perspective. And my perspective that helped me was, as I said, so it's a slight, very short piece of text. In 2012, the world had an estimated population of around 7 billion people. Out of these, 10,768 had qualified to participate in the London 2012 Summer Olympics. The shooting competition had 15 events, with 390 athletes taking part. Out of these, 56 wasn't my event. So that means that I, in a 4-year period, has been one out of 56 out of 7 billion people that made it there. Not saying all 7 billion people would be doing it, but for the matter of speaking, putting things in perspective, I did well, even though that I personally was disappointed on how it all ended up in the process of it all. I freaking made it there, and that is something to be proud of. So therefore, everyone who got to compete is a unique winner of their own. Um, because it's so hard to get it there. And the thing is just it's much harder to get to the Olympics than it is to compete there. Like the qualifying is so much harder than it's crazy. And I'm sure the same can be said for all of the winter events as well. So yeah, fun facts. I do believe they're doing the Super G today. But yeah, some of these alpine events is crazy. Or the long jumps, the skiing long jumps, high jumps, long jumps. I think it's high jumps, long jump. I'm not sure what it's called with skiing. Basically, they fly over a ramp and they go for 170 plus meters to land. Like they're flying, literally. So yeah, I'm not sure what's that called in but still it's a crazy thing to do. because they also go down that skiing ramp with speeds higher than what will get you a speeding ticket, right? On most roads. Think a little bit about that. No, thank you. Just no, thank you. I have mad respect for those athletes. I really do. They are far more brave than I am. Definitely getting to a place where this piece is getting bigger and bigger to work on. And therefore it gets a little bit more inconvenient. Um, I'll admit that. But we'll crack on. I know we are not close yet to finishing this game, but I do have a feeling we may make it there. I do have a feeling. Mm, mm, mm. This is what's left. For those curious. Now that would be awesome to have the first skein done of this month. Yes, what's the weather in New Jersey? Let's have a look. Let's see if Nightbud wants to share with us. According to Nightbud, the weather in New Jersey is fair with a temperature of 37 degrees Fahrenheit, so that's about 3 degrees Celsius. That's a lot better than Monday, one could say. Wind is blowing from west at 9 miles per hour, and the current humidity is 61. I think it's more like 7 to 8 degrees here. That's my estimate guess, but I don't know. We can have a look. Yeah, we are above freezing. Exactly. That's my point. That doesn't look too bad compared to earlier this week. Here in Nijmegen, oh, it's warmer even. Here in Nijmegen, not far from where I am, it is mostly cloudy with a temperature of 50 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about 10 degrees Celsius. Wind is blowing from west southwest at 9 miles per hour, and the current humidity is 93. It's mostly cloudy, which is definitely true. I would say it's just cloudy, not mostly, but it's cloudy. It's great. In Winkler, Canada, the weather is cold. The conditions are foggy with a temperature of 10 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about -7 degrees Celsius. Wind is blowing from south to southeast at 8 miles per hour, and the current humidity is 88. Mm, 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 mm. Oh, we're just missing Wacko or other many interesting locations. Could take a look actually at the weather in Cortina, which is where they do the Olympics, if they actually will show that for Cortina. Yeah, the weather for Cortina d'Ampezzo is cloudy with a temperature of 41 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 5 degrees Celsius. Wind is blowing from south southwest at 4 miles per hour. The humidity is 76. So it's actually pretty warm of the year. That means that they are likely having to have some fake snow brought in unless they are further up the mountains where it's colder. Um, That would definitely be a thing. Doo-doo. We're about to get the weather for Waco right now. The conditions are cloudy with a temperature of 54 degrees of Fahrenheit. That's about 12 degrees Celsius. Wind is blowing from northwest at 10 miles per hour. The current temperature is 61. But yeah, none of us can really beat with the weather of Texas, I guess. At least when it comes to heat and temperatures. Ah, the dog is important. They need to get the food. I will not be the reason for her starvation. It's going to be in the mid 70s. Oh, sweet. I wish I were there. I'd happily trade. Barcelona, yeah, that's nice. The weather in Barcelona right now today is partly cloudy with a temperature of 69 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 21 degrees Celsius. The wind is blowing from west and the current humidity is 39. I would say it's nice weather in Barcelona today. Most definitely. Not too warm, not too cold. My boss actually told me that she was heading off to Sevilla next week. She would be there for a week. And I'm like, oh, yeah, please. I need vacation after this. She actually told me I should have probably just taken a sick day Monday, which I feel I refuse because I'm like, but I wasn't sick. I was just wrecked. I should have taken a day off. But I didn't want to waste my day off on it either. But she was like, you should just have taken a sick day. She just told me you weren't fit to work. I'm like, okay. She's done that a few times when I'm like, nah, that feels wrong. She's like, take a sick day. I'm like, you tell it after the fact. Europe is tropical. Well, Spain is tropical compared to here. It could also just be Arctica blowing extra cold weather over the US. As in, are you really sure you want Greenland? This is what you get to deal with. Hmm. Mm-mm-mm. Most places are tropical compared to here. Valid, valid. Very valid. Oh, I am sorry for the yawn. Apparently it was needed. Yeah, you guys are really getting all the cold. I'm not gonna find you guys. No, I'm just not. But yeah, so no medals for the Danish biathletes. We kind of knew that already, but I had to give it a little watch because, of course, you do follow your fellow countrymen. You're almost through this row. I don't even have counted how many rows we've done. Is this the fourth or the fifth? Not that it matters. Remember, I was doing a blanket at some stage, and I intentionally left a stitch marker between the yarn talk videos just to actually keep track of how much I'd done because it looked like I didn't move. Because again, it was all one colored, right? This, my friends, is how far we are. It's taking up the whole table space here now in front of my computer. Ta-ta. As I said, the goal here is to basically each piece sew piece here together, make sleeves of that, and the same on the other side, and then that leaves a gap here, which is where you get your shoulders into. Ta-ta. But we still have a fair amount to get done. I have the feeling we're not moving at all. That said, we do need to stretch a little bit. It also feels nice just if one wanted a blanket like this. But the thought of having to actually blanket this back and forth, my goodness. Then one would probably prefer just to make the squares somehow and then sew them together or something. I don't know. So this is technically the exact full completion of the row. So what would one do? Take the next. I don't know. Anyhow. We are doing good. Let's crack on the next row here. For those curious, that's the yarn we have left. Looking at the time, I would say we are likely finishing this skein. Okay, today. Lisa, I am struggling with the exact same issue. Lisa here says, "Oh, Plessers keep sending me emails about the sales." I'm like, yes, I am seeing their sales too, and I am tempted, but I also know that I don't need, and I don't have room. So I am actually doing my very best to ignore them, but they are very tempting. That is true. I'm just seeing that I'm being like, sales, yarn, gorgeous colors, being like, me want. I can't find the perfect yarn to make a shawl for my friend's wedding. I'll have to order from Pletter. Oh, what a shame. We'll have to. They had some really nice, I think, oh my goodness, I have a suggestion then for yarn for the shawl for the wedding. If it needs to be, if it's a bridal shawl we're talking about, or it does need to be a colored one. Oh my goodness. They're like selected yarn 30% discount. Oh my goodness. Until Saturday. But we are issued here. As I said, they increased their prices for free shipping to 199 in Europe. I'm like, "Ugh, it's just not happening. That's like expensive. And I refuse to buy from them without getting the free shipping. So it's not happening. But the merino cakes is 20% off for the next 4 days. Oh my goodness. I am physically challenged. The candy star drops could be an option, or they made this new um cotton star, I think they called it. Oh, even the muffins are on sale. Ah. I think they call them cotton star. Um, or the candy opal could be nice too, if it doesn't need to be a monochrome color. Oh my goodness. I see all the yarns here and I'm like, I want to get yarns. We no, we should not. We should not. We should not. I should not. Oh, they have new muffin cakes. Oh no. This is bad. This is really bad. I need to get off the site ASAP. I am so freaking tempted. Oh my goodness, that's not good for me. I'll be honest. Oh, Cotton Star is new. No, they sent out this new cake. Um, is it then a different one? It's a candy. It's a candy. It's one in the candy royal candy something. Um, whatever they did to the website, my computer doesn't like it. Um, by the looks. Uh, uh, um. Princess cotton. Yes, that's the one. The princess cotton cake. Thank you. The iceberg is like all white with silver sequins in it. Yeah, the sequin yarn. Exactly. I think that could be really nice, personally. No? It depends, of course, as I said, if it's for the bride, that would work out nicely. No? Ah, that's the one you're eyeing. Yeah. I think that's not a bad idea. Either the white or the red. She'll have red flowers embroidered on her dress. Choices, choices. Choices, choices. I think it's a nice one. We looked at that, I think, 2 weeks ago here on the stream. As I said, I am super tempted, and it's on sale. And yeah, if I had room in my stash, I had probably bought. But reality is, I do not. Um, for that, I would need to get some stuff sold. I wasn't going on shopping spree next week, I would order two. Yeah, there you see. The issues, huh? The very much issues. I'll have you if you go to the store with the Katya yarns. Let's see if I can actually find it. Katya has this concept yarn. I do believe they call them Concept by Katya. It's a brand, and the Concept by Katya has some extremely nice yarns too. Um, I do believe, yeah, the cotton cashmere I have in my stash. Currently it's listed at €6.80 if you don't get it on sale. But the cotton cashmere is, oh my goodness, soft. And it's 90% cotton, 10% cashmere. That's a really, really, really nice yarn. Um, I believe they do have a few others, of course. But their concept yarns are really nice. They also have some really nice sock yarns. Like it's also under the concept brand, though that would be like a €12 yarn for socks. Again, really, really, really nice yarns. Warmly recommend. Sounds a bit odd, but I actually do because they look gorgeous and feels nice. I don't have that many Katya yarns though. I also have a set. I think I have a pack with like 20 balls, and it's a bit of like a fluffy yarn, novelty yarn, that I would like to at some stage to make a sweater with. And it's probably going to have to be knit, I think. Um, unless I find the perfect pattern for crochet. But I think it would be really nice to have a sweater in that yarn because it seems warm and fluffy and soft and snuggly and all of the things. Um, I was looking through my stash yesterday and realized I have a really old Katya yarn. It's been long discontinued. Oh, that's sad when that happens. But still, you have it. Let's see if I can actually pop over to the Katya side things. And we'll screen. Here we are. Here we have the cotton cashmere. This is a really, really nice cotton cashmere yarn. As I said, it is soft. Their concept by Katya is a bit of more of a novelty yarn of these brands. I'll fuck off. But very, very nice yarns. I have one in this, like, I think this could be the one I have actually in this color. Very nice. I have like enough skeins to make a nice shawl. That's also the end goal of it, in this case. Um, This looks nice too, actually. It's a bit interesting combo. Cotton, viscose, linen, and polyamide. I think it could be soft. Like the different colors on it. Um, mm, mm, Wasabi, cotton, viscose, and silk. Hmm, we'll have it. No, I don't need to subscribe to anything. Uh, mm, mm, mm. Here we have some of their suck yarns. Uh, this is like 100 grams to 400 meters, so it's 75% wool, 25% polyamide. So that's sock yarn. This is also sock yarn. They're all sock yarns here. That's different varieties of sock yarns. They're all wool polyamide blends. They also have a United Socks and more. Merino superwash wool polyamide. That's nice. 25 grams, 200 meters. They're quite small, actually. Tiny socks, merino superwash. They're thicker ones. But yeah, they have sock yarns. Now I'm getting in the mood. I feel like I should be getting yarns. But I really shouldn't. I know I shouldn't. They have some really nice one. Let's pop over here. This is the Lua. This is the one with the linen in. That's a chain spun yarn. No, I don't need to be signed up or anything. But they only have one color, so that's a downer. The same goes for this Wasabi silk blend. But it's looking nice, but I'm not sure how it would feel. That's crazy. I don't want all these pop-ups. Okay. I'm like 35 euros for a skein of yarn. That has to be nice. 48% superfinal packer, so it's 27% merino and 25% polyamide, 150 grams to 300 meters. So 5.25 ounces to 328 yards. It looks nice though, but my goodness, I wouldn't want to pay the price for this yarn. But it's a gorgeous color. It's a gorgeous color. It's definitely a gorgeous color. They also have like other regular yarns. No, can I do like I accept? Fuck off. Sorry, but I get annoyed with these pop-ups. That's nice. Cotton polyester. That's a nice yarn. Let's go have a look at that one. Not a concept. This is just generally. See, it wants me to be signed up. I don't want to be. This is like a tape yarn. Not sitting and waiting on tape yarns, but yeah. I have 5 large donuts of Sirocco. It's a very neat mohair with tweeds. I'm though thinking for the shawl, stay away from wool. It's hot when they're planning to have the wedding. Yeah, that doesn't sound nice either if it's wool then. Megan says, I'm definitely going to look up the location when I'm there. Thank you again for that link. You're very welcome. They have multiple locations. So Katya is just a brand, like let's say Malabrigo or whatever on Noro. So it's just a brand resold at various stores. But what they do have on the website and the link is they share locations of the stores. That's resale yarns. So it's just a random small store. It could be larger store, but it is a store, and not necessarily the whole big thing. So they may not carry all of them. But they have some really nice yarns, but they are also not the cheapest yarns, but they have nice yarns. Rowan says, yeah, I walk in the valley of the shadow of sales. I will not purchase, for Susan is my shepherd. I haven't bought anything either. I'm just tempted. I haven't bought anything. And I don't plan on buying anything anytime soon either, unless, of course, something happens. But as a rule of thumb, Um, it would be nice if the yarn haul I did by hobby was like the only one this year. That would be really cool if I can get around with that. But I have a feeling it might not be so. Um, but we'll try my best. Meanwhile, Lisa sent her daughter home with another box of yarn last night, so she is definitely doing good on the destashing. That would be my scary thought of getting home to my mom and she would send me home with a box of yarn. That's possible because she has a lot of yarn, but I'd rather for her to use it herself. I'll be completely honest on that as well. Dun, 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 dun. Yep, we are still having yarn. We're still having yarn to go through. But we're definitely making good efforts, even though I was distracted for a few looking on yarns. So yeah, I am not yet in the negative for the year because of the yarns I got. That said, I do think that it wasn't too far off. Like if I would almost have been to zero if I didn't get the free hobby yarn, like the creme Cusol wools, which I got for the points, right? If I had let that in the store, I think I would definitely have been at a negative for end of February. I'm not sure if I'll reach to crank out enough to get there this month, but I am trying. But I think we will have to go into March before um, I will have used more than I got this year. Lisa is apologizing for distracting me. Nah, it's okay, Lisa. It's okay to distract me as long as I don't end up buying, right? I think. Then that's kind of all right. It's all right. Da, da. Who would have thought? It's getting warm here. But I'm also extra wrapped up today. Da, da, da. But yeah, so at some stage, I'd love to get myself some more Katia yarns. That would be really nice. But I also have a few things I'd like to make first, so I should just stop whining and get crafting. Because we need to create room before we can get more. And we just barely started on destashing sorting and getting it on Ravelry. And uh, there is already the first, 2 years of usage stored on Ravelry, if it's not more, based on my current average consumption. That is scary. So if we are to assume, but I'm afraid that can't be done. That said, the next yarns we're going through will be the regular twisters or uh, yarn art flowers. And I need to split that into two as well, because one thing is to go through them, another thing is to also get them stored on Ravelry, and that takes time. So I think I may end up splitting that to two because I have two big boxes of the Hobby Twister slash yarn art flowers. So I may have to do that as a part one and a part two. I don't think I did that originally, but I may have to this time around for practicalities of things. So that was one more done. Look, this is how much we have left. We have an hour to go, approximately. I'm crocheting up a skein of Stanley mini locks I got in a mystery box. I'm finding it annoying because of the one strand of Lurex doesn't stretch like the other four strands of acrylic and it is shorter. Okay. My experience with the mini locks was if I had really warm hands, it would snag on my fingers. Um, but generally else that I've found it fine to crochet with. Um, but if I had warm hands, I couldn't crochet with it. As soon as I started getting warm hands, I would have to find something else to work with. But it is very annoying, especially if you have one where the strands of Lurex doesn't lengthwise equal with the others. Oh my goodness. Need to keep track of the yarns here. Because this piece, as I said, is getting bigger, so it is getting a bit more. It requires a little more tactique to work in. Again, we're starting with the stacked singles to create the double because it just makes the border so much nicer, I think. What's your opinion here of the border? I think it looks really nice and aligned. Like it is a really nice edge. And I can't get that if I do the chain one double crochet or if I do chain 2 or 3. It gets wonky. I think it's so much nicer with the stacked singles. I have to say now the fact that I also decided on making the hat collectors from the Hobby Twisters rather than the muffin that I had. I am rather curious. So I cast on a 31 stitch knit scarf instead. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. If you haven't done it, ladies, don't forget to hydrate. We should all be hydrating regularly. I am actually quite poor at it. I have a weight scale that tells me a lot of things, including things you'd rather not know. But it also tells me that I'm not good enough at hydrating myself. So, by this, my warmest recommendation to you to ensure that you stay hydrated. So, what's on your dinner plates tonight? Here it is leftovers from yesterday. Yesterday, I made chicken in a sweet sour sauce and some rice. So, it's a chicken day. Meanwhile, I need to figure out sometime between now and Friday what we are eating Friday. But I do think I have something available in the freezer for it. Thursday is the day where we eat with my in-laws. Um, so I don't need to cook tomorrow, which is nice. Susan said, I found a creator named Snufflebeam Yarn. The scarf is from her video. Okay. Reverend is doing teriyaki chicken rice for today's dinner. So we are kind of down the same alley with me being a chicken sweet sour sauce and rice. Not completely similar, yet down the same alley for sure. I love listening to content creators with accents. So now that's really the question. Do I have an accent or don't I have an accent? Tell me. A lot of people can't judge my accent because, they say it sounds funny. It can't place me. And I think it's because I'm pretty global in the sense of. But I am aware that I do have an accent, can definitely start chit chatting random words you wouldn't understand. Like if I talk Dutch, I guess I get a bit of a Dutch accent, and yet not really because the Dutch can hear I'm not fluent Dutch. Your district's Tina accent. Thank you. Revenant says, have some matchstick carrots and onions. I cook with it. That sounds good. Veggies are also good for us. I added extra pineapples to my sweet soy sauce. And Susan is in for some baked ziti. I'm not sure what that is, but sounds good. Brent then toss the rice in with the teriyaki sauce and let it steam together. Also a good plan. Distinct. Right. Distinct Stina accent. Yeah, that's sure. True. Leftovers here tonight. We're heading out tomorrow afternoon. We decided to stay at a hotel at the airport tomorrow night. That's a good plan. No need to stress and rush. So much easier. That's what I'm debating on in March. If I'm going to the company meeting, I should actually just say, yes, thank you. You can book me a hotel. Um, and then go Monday evening. But it does mean that for the weekend, before leaving, then, oh my goodness, it's gonna be really, really squeezed in. I'll need to get a lot of packing done. And on the Sunday, I'm not home. That weekend, I'm not home either. Oh my goodness. Oh, Mom, I may need the washing machine when I get home in March. Being like stressing about everything right now. Because right now, realistically, the 7th to 8th of March, I'll be in Germany. 9th of March, I'm home, but I have to prep rest of bits and work. And then I'll head to the office likely in the evening then, if that's the case. Not the office, but up to the hotel. So head to Amsterdam in the evening. Um, and check in and sleep. Then work for a couple of hours at the hotel. That could be an option. Check out for the meeting. Of course, it sounded like it would be the same place. I would have to check with them, double check. And I will definitely need to double check with my partner if he thinks that's too crazy of an idea because I'm probably like not home for a week and a half then. Romanet says I would peg your accent as European, but will have trouble nailing down a country. That's very valid because obviously I've lived a bit everywhere and I've traveled a lot. If you don't desert the hobo, we'll have to leave our house at 3:30. Oh, yeah. And honestly, Lisa, my experience is as we get older, we are allowed to have more comfort. We give ourselves more comfort. It's just like um, normally back in the days, I would have like taken a long drive to go to the matches in Germany, also in the early morning. And now I'm depending on when we have to compete. I'm being like, oh, I'll offer a hotel because, yeah, comfort. Lisa says, I agree. I'm old. I get to be comfortable. Yeah, no, I'm just meaning we don't necessarily need to be old, but as we get older, like the comfort levels you needed when you were 20 versus the comfort levels you need when you're 40 is massively different. Or for that matter, between 40 and 50 or 50 and 60. Like as we get older, we just want more comfort in life. And we also likely more likely to be able to afford it, right? Because um, when we were younger and we're just poor students or whatever we definitely did not have as much financial freedom as we may have today. I do pray for everybody here, hoping they have to some level of financial freedom. Um, but I mean, I think as I've gotten older, I have had a lot less thinking of certain things, right? Um, if I if I would only need to look at the financial aspect, I could buy yarn. That's not a problem. I could buy the yarn I wanted to, and we could have a yarn haul more or less weekly. If I wanted to, I could afford that. But I don't craft it that fast, and I don't have room to store it, and I don't necessarily want to buy it to hope that I can resell it because I also kind of like refuse to buy it to sell it off cheaper, if that makes sense. Just to make a good deal out of it. Then I'd rather craft it up, um, or at least sell it for a similar price as I bought it at. That could work. Um, but yeah, I'm not. So instead, we are having a goal to try to get it destashed to some extent, or at least to get it used. We earned the comfort. That's a great description. Yes, we earned the comfort. And as soon as it says yes, when we're younger, anything was fine. Basically, yes. And it's just not anymore, right? It's a lot different. So bottom line is yeah, we have earned to be comfortable. We have definitely some sort of level allowing us um to have some comfort for sure. With my destashing, my hubby and daughter understand that I'm transforming my stash from what I could get to what I want, from what I could get to what I want. Great. Along the same lines of thinking of the comfort level. Yep, yep, yep. And I think also eh, sometimes we bump into great deals, I guess. And I guess also the type of yarns we use may change over time as well. Um, because those mill end skeins I have from ice, I just want them out of my stash, but I do want to use the yarn, so henceforth they are turning into beanies. Um, though I may use the leftover of this green for something I'm going to test out, but I can see on the time I have available in my hands that I may have to option for some different coordination. Um, it wasn't that long ago that we did not have the expendable income that we have now. Life changes. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have. Mm, 5 years ago, maybe that would be on the edge. No, 5 years ago, I definitely didn't have the cash. 5 years ago, I would buy if I would. So I didn't craft 5 years ago in the same way as I do now, by any means. But let's say I started this journey 5 years ago rather than 4 years ago. It's almost 4 years now in March, by the way. But let's say I started a year earlier. Reality is that time I didn't have a full time job and I only had a sporadic income from my freelance work, especially due to the COVID period as well. So back then, if I would have done something like this, I would likely only have bought it for the project and then I would have moved on to the next project as I would buy the yarn and not do big quantities or something like that. I would probably still look at if it's on sale or is there two projects I could buy in one to get free shipping and stuff like that. But I wouldn't have gone all in and gotten that much yarn that I got, let's say in 2023, 2022, 23, and 24. That's basically where I bought most of my yarns. It's this like short 2 year period, more or less. Um, and I definitely wouldn't have done that 5 years ago because I wouldn't have had the cash for it. Part of it, I guess, was also seen as an investment in the future because yarn is not in the same way degradable. And it felt like an investment also because I started crafting because I had so much waiting time at my old job. I don't in my current. So in my current job, I basically don't craft at all. It's just not possible. Where my old job, sometimes I could sit and wait half an hour with nothing happening, and then I could sit and crochet while I was waiting. So that's the only thing I missed with my old job. There was a long period where that wasn't possible either because it was so stressful at work. Look, I think we're actually at a place where we can take it off the spindle because it's very little. Maybe it's another row ish. Guys, I am going to offload my poncho because it's warm. So just a minute, I'll be back. Who would have thought? Phew, that was warm. And now it's a lot better. Yeah, 2020 was a bad year for most of the world, but for us, it was a year of business really took off. For me, it was really bad. So, what I did when I was a freelancer, I did translations mainly from English or Dutch into Danish. Um, and um, for travel agencies or companies such as KLM partnering, so it's a flight company here in the Netherlands. They are partnered with Delta Airlines in the US. Um, but you know, when COVID hit, the first month or so after, I was really busy work-wise because a lot of them needed translations of their newsletters, being like, "Your ticket has been cancelled," or "We're not flying," or "You're..." And not only KLM, I also did for some vacation agencies for vacation homes. So that's vacation home rentals. And they were like, "Yeah, we are sorry, but your vacation is not going through. You will instead receive a voucher worth the value of your stay. It has to be used within blah, 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 period, etc." Like those kind of emails. I did lots of translations of those. But once all of that communication was out, what people's rights were when their vacations got cancelled, um, there was no work basically for the rest of 2020 for me, more or less. It was a really, really, I was living on my reserves. My earnings dropped compared to 2019. They dropped by 70%. There was no security net to catch me because I was self-employed. I didn't have a boss. I didn't have a security system to fall back on. Um, so 2020 was definitely a rough year for me. 2021, I got a new project from a customer. That was a bigger project. That was really good for me. And then when we got to about summer 2021, so in June, there was a job, an advertisement doing a customer support for Discovery Plus in connection with the Tokyo Olympics that had been postponed for a year. And did that for the summer for 2 months, just to at least get 2 months of income. And I was kinda settled in my head with it could be that after those 2 months, I have no job anymore. That's very likely. But then at least I had two months of full-time income to kinda help cover some of it. Um, but then, the Sonos project moved into the same company where I did the Discovery Plus, project for, and I started doing customer service for them in Danish. For about 3 years until I got laid off there. And now where I am now, which I'm so happy with. That's like best job ever, honestly, compared to any of the others I've had. Um, and I'd like to keep it like this. I don't want to change. We installed the base infrastructure of the fiber optic internet. So when the world shut down socially, it took off with internet needs. Ah, yeah, that makes great sense. So you did lots of the infrastructure digging, so to say, the entrepreneur part of ensuring that the cables was put into the ground and stuff like that for the optic fibers. That said, I did knew all the time when I was doing my custom support job that my job was very unsecure. I did never expected that to last for the rest of my working career. Um, and at the same time, I started enjoying crafting. I started enjoying um, giving my knowledge away to other people regarding my crafts here on YouTube, which is kind of why I ended up starting this channel, right? Like, um, to help share my journey, to help share my ideas, and to help people generally in their crafts. Um, and I saw that as an alternate avenue should I end up losing my job. Um, I will have to say, by any means, YouTube does not make me a living. Because else I wouldn't have my current job if that was the case. Um, and I also don't think it is a level where I could quit my current job, should that happen. So that is why I'd rather ensure that I have a good full time, or not full time job, but I have a good job, and then I can keep building on this, because I do have plans for the year. I do have plans. There are things I would like to design, um, etc. Like I have ideas in my head that we should start getting looked at. And we're gonna finish this one and this stream. What do you think? Taking bets? I think we are. 45 minutes, but I'm not sure. It's like, when we are sitting with these color changing yarns, and I'm like, yeah, we'll change color with the end of the stream. And I'm like, at the end of the stream, nope, no color change. Susan says it's wonderful, Lisa. It seems to allow you to travel a lot. Definitely, there are benefits to being self employed. It does give you lots of freedom. That's the main part I'm missing about being self employed. And if I would earn the same from being self employed as I do with my current job, I would likely be self employed. Like for the freedom of being able to choose to do what you want when you want. So I'll be completely honest about that. Um, I'd love to have that freedom. Only in the winter we are locked down to the work when the weather is nice. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Now the ground is frozen; you can't dig in it. Um, so this is a seasonal job. What are your employees actually doing over winter time? Like, can they do some sort of machinery maintenance, or are they just laid off for the winter, or how do you get around that part? Because obviously, if you don't have any projects going in the winter, are they just getting a salary paid all year round, and then basically, or or they just earn better when they actually work and then they're off, or how are you managing that part? I'm curious because there's obviously every year a couple of months where they can't do much. Most of the employees get laid off, but we have a few guys doing machine maintenance. Okay, that's my point. Like to some extent, like if they don't physically do anything, it doesn't make sense for you to keep them on, so to say, right? I think we have one more row in this. E sticky yarn. Susan says I grew up with a generational family business and I learned it's easier to work for others. Yes, to some extent that's true as well because when I log off work, I'm off work. I don't work. I don't need to worry. My cash still gets like my salary still gets paid once a month, or my like no worries. That's nice. But the freedom you have from being self-employed, being able to say I don't want to work is nice too, but that requires that when you do work, you generate enough income as well. So it's a very much of a yeah, it's a challenging one. There are benefits and disadvantages to both. I genuinely miss the flexibility I had when I was self-employed. I especially miss the part that I could just sleep in the morning because I'm yeah, but I don't do now because I want to make sure my work is done before um, either with playing with you guys in the afternoon, crafting, or doing other things, so that actually start working now earlier than what I used to do um, back when I was doing customer service. Susan says I've worked in both types of businesses, but never worked in large corporation. Um, we are a small company. We are like where I work. We are less than 50 employees. It's probably more like 30. So that's really nice. Lisa says our business is generational. My father-in-law started it. We bought it and have a few from the next generation working for us. Oh, that's nice. That is nice. It's growing. So yeah, there's definitely some desires and wishes for me there, so to say. Um, I think also that's it. If I reached a stage where I could make that same type of income as from my employer, I think I would set up my business structure in a different way to be able to do so nicely. Um, because now my business ventures are mixed, but on the same tax number, and that's because it's a personal business. It's a freelancer business, so to say. But the requirements for bookkeeping get so much more strict if you go into the limited company. But there are some tax benefits in the limited company because then you would only still need to pay, for example, pay yourself a set salary, um, and you could keep any extra profits in the company when you're paying company tax. But I understand the complexity of generation family businesses. It takes some very careful navigating. Yeah, for sure. Especially if there's like more siblings who gets to be um, the caretaker, so to say, of the future business. Not everyone can or wants to deal with the politics. No. Oh, there's lots of politics. Also, just like business side of things is rules, laws, regulations. As you can see, we are decreasing in this game. And I would say, looking at this, yes, we will finish this one during this live. Haha. This is backside, that's the front side, but we're working on the backside. I don't know how far we'll get, but I'll just keep cranking on until there's no more yarn left. As you know, nothing changed there. But I am rather much looking forward for this one to be complete. That would be my first yarn skein used in February, and it's already February 11th. But I need to remind myself it's okay because I was out of town earlier this month. Right, so it's okay. There were other siblings involved in the business, but they have all left over the years. Okay. That's always a challenge when there are siblings, especially if they disagree. And I sometimes wonder if that all comes down to a level of greed. Um, but it's much better if people realize they have no interest or that they just don't have the skills. Sometimes that's also the case, right? A very nice example would be, I think, um, my dad grew up on a farm, and he's the oldest, but he wasn't the biological child of the farmer. He was a biological child of my grandmother, but she had gotten him before she married the farmer, so to say. And this is many years ago. So it ended up passing to his little brother, not the oldest little brother, because he wanted to do something else with his life, but the youngest. And I'm not 100% sure if the youngest really wanted to be a farmer or if he had hoped to do something else with life. But bottom down line is that he did fail, and the farm is no longer in the family's possession. Um, and I just wonder, and I asked my dad um last year at some stage, being like, Dad, hypothetically, if you have had the opportunity to take over the farm, would you have done so? And would you have enjoyed it? He was like, I think I would. And yes, I think I would have enjoyed it. Um, and yeah, um, I can also actually imagine him being good at it. Revenant says, I've seen so many family businesses where after the founders and then their kids all retire, end up going out of business because the current generation either is incompetent or disinterested. Exactly. Either or, right? Um, if it's not your main interest, you shouldn't do it either, or you're just not competent enough. But sometimes it's also, I guess, about accepting the fact you're not competent enough. And if you know you're not, then better let somebody who are do it and make some sort of internal agreement if possible. Or maybe there are aspects of the company where you're competent enough to do, then maybe be an employee or a partner. Lisa says, I've seen that too, Rev. It's poor succession planning. Yeah, definitely. I think what we have also right now, especially in Denmark, these now newer days, is there are some bigger farms where the kids are not necessarily interested in becoming farmers. A part of this is also very much due to there's lots of new political rules on the farming aspect. Um, it's just more and more difficult to be a farmer than it was 50 years ago. Um, So yeah, there's definitely something with poor succession planning there too. Mm, 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 mm. Mm. Doo-doo. Oh, look, it gets squeezy, tiny. I'm not so sure we get all the way across here. But in case, we can go ahead and knit on the beanie for the last few rows. I actually had a very, very small scrap of the red yarn, and that's currently holding the sprout of one of my orchids in place. So I have like this piece of red yarn in my window between the stick, the wooden stick and the orchid, kind of keeping it so it goes upwards rather than outwards towards the window. So leftover yarns, even small scraps, can be used for many things. Never underestimate what a yarn scrap can be used for. Susan says, Dina, what's your preferred method for joining skeins? I just tend to crochet the new one in with the old one. Or in the case of a double crochet, I could take my needle. I'm not sure if I can show it here on the screen, but let's say this is now an end. Then I would go down the stitch, those two ones I just went through, and I will go down here. I will pick up the new yarn and go through. And then you can basically put this one out and sew it in without ruining the whole stitch. So that's a way for crochet. For knitting, I still need to find my preferred method. I am unsure about knitting yet. I've done a few like knit along the lines, and just left the yarn and added the new one and then weaved in my ends. If it's a correct way of doing it or not, I don't know. I haven't had that much ends to weave in yet for the knitting. Only my last beanie had some extras due to that was really a scrappy project, right? So yeah. Lisa says, we have our successor planned already and in training. He's my husband's right-hand guy and my main guy out of the job site. He's been for several years. So he will have a decade of training before we hand the business over. That's a really good planning. Is that also your son, or is it like a complete non-family related person? I'm not a nut stitcher. Nope. I don't like nuts at all. He's a nephew. Okay, so he is family. Albeit not directly. He's more, yeah, indirect, so to say. Nephew is good. Especially if he has interest and he's a good worker, right? So then that's perfect. No, I think nuts often show, and that's why I'm not too keen on nuts. With the only exception of the color changing yarns. For example, again, we have the twisters, the sultans, etc. Because the knots are so small, because it's only one of the four strands, it's different. Then I'm okay with them. But like one big knot, because the yarn is joined from the factory. Oh my goodness! I'll cut it up and I'll like remove it because somehow it just feels visible. It might just be me being crazy though. Hmm. Maybe, maybe. I don't think so. I think we'll be short a little bit before that end row. But that's all right. I just need to cake up a new skein for tomorrow. I'm not home this evening, so I definitely won't have time to craft in any case. But I'll definitely need to get something caked up tomorrow, where I do have a little bit more time available, so that's fine. Um, this is what I've left, and no, we won't make it to the end. We knew, we knew, we knew. We hoped, but good that I'm not playing yarn chicken. I just need to wind up a new cake. That is all. So what am I gonna do? Regular stitch. Yeah, that's fine. I could probably do two more before, but it's cool. I'll stop here since we are very close to that end. I think we can consider this one used. Look. Look how far we got. As I said, oh, the light is horrible. Oh, the light is horrible. But we used a skein. Hallelujah. We used up one skein of a Zeeman Royal on the 11th of February. So I am rushing and adding that into my usage. These skeins are so they are basically 100 grams, so 3.5 ounces to 241 meters or 263 yards. So, ta-ta, back side, front side, positive side, right side. This side is the one that's going to be outside. So this is going to be towards my skin or my shirts. And should we choose to sew these together now, because this is the end where we kind of started. Look, 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 look. That would definitely, it's spacious. We are getting to a place where we can almost say that we are having the top end here done. That's nice. We are definitely not at my upper arm yet. Maybe if I took off this one. So I'll have to measure myself without my cardigan on. But we're getting there. We're definitely getting there. So one skein done. Hallelujah. That's nice. That's good for the consumption. That means that at least we did something here in February by now. It really feels like I'm behind though. So that was a really, really nice completion. Um, but we are still behind. Let's see. I need to do this as a summary. So we are just gonna summarize because I see it didn't add up further down the line. So there we have them. And these now adds up. Nice. That looks much, much better. I am still a bit behind, but I am optimistic for the month of February, even though that I'm currently behind. That was how far we got on this one today. We still have some time, so I think I should go ahead and get some knitting done. I did whatever normally is definitely not. They are pull skeins. I did pull from the outside, and the reason for that is these two skeins are different in size. This might seem bigger, but it is more fluffy, not as tightly wound. Slightly bit longer, but due to the fluffiness. This one is much more tight wound. You can basically see it. Look, put the same effort into squeezing them around. This is heavier. It's 20 grams heavier. How much is 20 grams? I can calculate that in ounces if you want me to. Probably like an ounce ish, a bit less than an ounce. 0.75. It's a good guess without fully knowing. Oh, I'd have to do like this. Okay, it's 0.70 ounces difference. Fun fact. So I ended up taking them from the outside of the skein because I was afraid that they would be too sloppy as pull skeins, that it would tangle up. So I decided to be inconvenient and just pull them from the outside of the skeins. So that's what I'm doing. Feel free to judge me. I may have given myself a bit of extra work, but I hope it gives me less work long term. I have done a couple of rows. It is this sort of heathered sage green I like, and it is a rather soft acrylic compared to the red. So this I'm positive about. 64 stitches. Just rib knit, 64. I am doing, they are an 8mm needles, except for the fact that my leaving here is a 7mm and my working end is the 8. And I do this because of how these join, that the stitches easier slide on the 7. So that's what you can basically see the difference in these needles here, that the 8mm is a bit thicker on some of the pieces, so it just slides easier on the 7. So that's my experience from the red yarns. I have to say also this green yarn slides a lot nicer than the red, and I'm having the same amount of stitches. Needle size is technically the same. I did my math. They are lengthwise the same as the red. So it's about 100 grams to 200 meters, or let's say I pulled out 10 meters of yarn. I weighted and I say 5 grams. That math, rounding that up to 100 grams skein, would give 200 meters of yarn. Um, so um, that's kind of what I'm doing. I just have my starting stitch here. What I did do, I did cast on, like I have done the other times, where I kind of like throw them on with the same needle. So it's just on the same yarn end. I don't need to measure out the end I cast on with. But I did join the center, how we discussed at some stage, and I couldn't get it to work with what I did in the beginning. But I figured out, because here's the cast on thingy. I did figure out the reason for it not working was because that the working end yarn on my magic loop to start the stitches on was when I was pulling in the wrong thread of the two. Normally, when I would make a magic loop, I would ensure that the when you like I can pull in this yarn to make it smaller. That is what I would do for crochet because this is my working end. But for the knit cast on, you would want to do it opposite. So let's see, this would be your working end. Technically now it's, but let's say this would be your working end, and you can't pull it. Then you can't join in the circle as what we discussed a couple of weeks ago. So you can't pull it tight. So I need to make the um, uh, slip knot here, or magic the loop. Oh Jesus, I forgot the name of it. But I need to make this loop um, so that not the working end, but the other end is the one I can control the size with, and then I can join the circle as requested. So henceforth, these are making a beanie. I will likely have yarns left over when I'm done. I'm not sure how much, but we will take that when we get there. Um, it could be that there will be enough to combine them with a different yarn, and then combine the two skeins, what's left. Um, or maybe not. And if it's a maybe not, then there is a chance that I'm probably just going to make some small project from it. I am eyeballing some ideas for some small charms or whatnot that could be made from them, which would be really nice as well, I think. Um, but yeah, so this is basically just rip, net, knitting. We could pop it a little bit up so you could get to see my face. Maybe that's much more fun. Unless you really want to see me knit. There's no fancy thing about it. It's just rip, knit for another, what, 15 minutes or so. But yes, there are definitely two skeins about to be used. Um, I am, though, definitely not finishing up this one tonight. But it is a project that I can work on behind the telly. So that is awesome. I needed one of those. I haven't had one since, well, I did have the cowl, but the cowl is kind of put temporarily on hold. Um, I chose to combine these. It's the only two skeins I have, and I chose to combine them um, because they were similar and they were the same yarns. And I don't know what others there are. So I felt it would make more sense to just keep them together. And I really like this green actually. Normally else, because some of the others I have, they have different colors, and I'm definitely gonna double strand those with different colors. Um, but in this case of this particular yarn, it made more sense to keep the yarn together now when it was possible. But as I said, because one of the skeins is definitely bigger than the other skein, and this yarn slides so much nicer than the red yarn, I have to say that. This is so much more pleasant to work with. Um, but yeah, it just sort of made more sense to keep this together. Because it's kind of like the same fussy heathered look. I could have taken a different yarn maybe, but I also didn't want to break up any of my current other skeins. So yeah, I decided for it to stay together. But it is fun to mix yarns for sure. I have some variegated yarns I can imagine would be really nice mixed up, even if it's white or something else. Mm. Some of them even have some lurex in it, some shiny lurex. Susan says you can also mix two strands of thin yarn with one worsted yarn. That's definitely also a possibility. Um, I have in my stash, and you will have seen that if you go through the first video I made for the year, where I was sorting the stash from the drops yarns. I do have some of this drops alpaca yarn, where there's no project planned, but it's yarns I have left over from a shawl. And I'm thinking I want to use that to double strand, or maybe even triple strand in a beanie. I think it would be really nice. So it's like gonna be this 100% alpaca thread going together with likely an acrylic or something else. That is the current thinking. Oh, I need to do net here. I was just about to do pearl. Um, so yeah, um, we are cracking on slowly and nicely. Actually, maybe you should have the opportunity to see me knit. Though I feel this is way too bright for you guys, so we'll get that sorted. Oh, my sorry for the light. That's better. You can get to see it for the last 10 minutes. Just gonna get some yarn. So I really like it's a really nice green, and it is as you can see, it has this sort of sage green heathered look to it. Yeah, it would maybe have been nice with a different color, but I didn't have one where I was like, okay, that's the best match. And therefore, yeah, I think they also just look nice together like this. Even though one can say, oh, but it's just green, that's a bit boring. But actually, I think it's nice just as it is. Um, I donated 10 knit hats yesterday to my local food bank. Some had hand knit, others circular machine knit. Okay, that's nice. That is definitely nice. So I have the 3 knit beanies, the 3 red ones. They are in my box for donation, but they haven't been donated yet. I have 2 options there. I either need to go there in person and donate them, or I want to collect a few more and I'll ship them when I have a bigger batch. If I'll option for that, that's probably first going to be next winter though. Lisa says I could have forced myself to make stuff with a lot of the yarn I destashed, but I'd rather give the yarn to someone that's excited to work with it. That makes really good sense. I'm still excited to work with this yarn, especially this yarn. It feels a lot nicer than the red. I admit for the last piece of the red ones, I was less excited. Where this feels a lot nicer to work with, and I definitely have yarns up in my stash where I'm like, oh yes, bring it, baby. Looking forward to work with you. Um, I definitely also would love to um, get into some cable knits and so on at some stage. And you all know this beautiful sweater I wanted to knit with the pattern and everything. We talked about it a couple of times during the past year. That is never going to happen because the store went bankrupt and I'm not ready to buy that yarn yet. And I think it's probably been sold out by now because they put it on like 30% discount until the company sold or whatever, if that's what they ended up doing. So, Lisa says if you're having fun, then you're doing it right. It's your yarn, do with it what you want. Uh, I'm not sure if I always necessarily have fun, but I do something which feels better than doing nothing. Um, it makes you feel productive. That is definitely a plus point here in my world. Um, that I can feel productive. That is it's a really win for me. Da, da, da. I admit I like these shorties. These needles are shorter than the normal circular ones. Um, and I think also because I am knitting round, they just feel much nicer, less fight with the needles. Um, a lot less fight than I had with the first ones I had. So I'm really happy that I got myself these knitting needles for sure. Would I also want these in double pointed? Maybe. There's a few sizes to get there. Um, but it's not the most important. I don't use a lot of the double pointed ones, and right now the ones I have cover what I need. Though at some stage I should want to consider getting myself at least the 7 millimeters, because I don't think my bamboos come in 7 millimeters for some reason. They come in 6.5 or 8. It's a bit weird in hindsight. Lisa says, for me, it's a hobby. It's not something I should have to force myself to do. It's not always fun, but sometimes it's sometimes it's frustrating, but all it meant to be enjoyable. Valid. I think I like the fact that I've crafted something, and some aspects of it can be enjoyable, um, or is enjoyable. I don't think about it. I just do it. Um, I can be away from a project. Like, I wouldn't say that I missed crafting when I was away this past week, but I also like it's not like I didn't have time to miss it, if that makes sense. Um, but I was happy to get back to it. Does that make remote sense? um, but I think sometimes I can miss it if I'm bored. Like, it helps me not being bored, and sometimes you can be in a situation where you're just waiting on something, and that can be boring. And then I definitely feel a miss. I guess a part of it is also very much just turned into a habit over the past couple of years. Um, as I said, I do have a friend who admires the blue not hat collectors, the blue ultimate sacrifice shawl I made last summer, and I showed her many of my shawls, and she's like, "But how can you use all those shawls?" I said, "I can't. I just enjoy making them." And she wants to get it. So I'm like, I actually want to get it blocked and measured and get some extra photos taken of it, and I'll ship it to her for um costs, because she's a good friend, so why wouldn't I do that? Um that turned out freaking gorgeous. I think what we're gonna do is we'll work to the end of this round, and then we'll work 1 or 2 stitches just to get it on and keep track of it. And that's gonna be it for today. But as I said, this yarn works so much nicer than the red one I had last month. Um, so it can't really be the same yarn, even though the lengthwise it's same specific. It's also, this is soft, like it's a nice soft acrylic. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I'm super happy that you guys hanged out with me today. It was a wonderful time. We definitely got crafting done. We used a whole skein of a Zeeman Royal for the WaffleChic Shrug, and we got a couple of rows done on this knit hat. And just gonna look. It's a little bit more green in reality. It looks a bit more grayish here. Let's see if that helps if I default it. No, that was way too bright. Maybe if I'll pop up in normal light. That's better. Heathered green. So we did get like, I think 2 or 3 rows knit. Nice. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I had an absolutely wonderful time hanging out with you guys. We also got a wiser on a few things. I do think I am having a small plan for the cowl, but that means that I am likely going to frog it and redo it. Um, but I do believe I want to maybe just do knit purl rows to alternate because I'm knitting in the round. And to help see if that prevents the curling, because that does alternate the rows for a bit for the beginning. But it is likely to, at some stage, curl um, for when you do the stockinette. And I'm thinking I just need to make it longer because this is not even a centimeter long. It's like, I don't know, 8 millimeters or something at best. 6, 8, 7 maybe. So I need to like, instead of 3 rows, I probably more like 8 at least to kind of get it clear. And I just need to make sure that the start and the beginning is the same to keep that clean, and then follow the concept of the pattern in between. Is my thoughts. Um, but I'm probably gonna make some sort of a swatch to test. Anyhow, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I had a most wonderful time, and I hope so did you. If you're watching the stream from the very beginning to the very end and you're rewatching it now, thank you so much, Eva, for your support. And good thoughts for thinner yarn is what Susan says. Lisa says, have a fantastic time. I'll try to see if I can catch some lives while I'm traveling. Take care, everyone. Lisa, I wish you great travels to Spain. I am looking so much forward to hear what yarns you bought. Maybe when you get back, you can send me a mail with the yarns you got. Take a photo of that stash when you get home. And we can have a chat about them in the next live when you are with us again. I think that would be absolutely awesome. And yeah, I'm going to say thank you so much for hanging around. I love you all. It was wonderful. Take care and happy crafting. And I will see you if everything goes well on Friday. I should be live again. Have a nice day. Bye.